Alright everyone, it's no secret that I don't like Buzzfeed and I pretty much hold them in contempt. It might have something to do with the fact that they attempted to defame me among many other content creators, but you gotta realize one thing when I sort of talk about what they're saying now, their recent bout of stupidity. When Buzzfeed comes out and attacks independent creators, or creators in general, or activists in general, it's because they're tired of the competition. They are a money-making, for-profit corporate group. They compete not only maybe 10, 20 years ago. What was their major competition for any media site? Other media sites. Doesn't matter what they were, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, it could be cable, it could be newsprint, early wave on the web, sort of the Drudge. They're all businesses and they compete for money. They're all for-profit primarily. Now they're competing with some people that are literally working for free, and many more of us that work for basically grassroots donations or have other sources of income and simply analyze politics from our own perspectives. What's the problem for Buzzfeed? The problem isn't partisan ideology. If that were true, then they would ramble still just as much about Breitbart or Drudge or Fox or something that's supposedly conservative. No, instead they aim their guns primarily at independent creators, mostly on YouTube and on certain blogs. Why do you think they do that and attack alt tech too? We're out competing them. So BuzzFeed is attacking free speech supporters now. It's attacking Tommy Robinson advocates. Basically as far-right or extremists. These far-right individuals are protesting the fact that this evil Nazi was thrown in a cell. If you tried to sit down with BuzzFeed and explain to anybody that works there, hey, some of us are libertarians. We don't want this kind of muzzling of the press over here. You're sitting there saying Trump's attacking the free press by attacking CNN on an ideological basis. Not threatening to shut him down, not issuing a press ban on some story that's inconvenient to him, just telling him to shut up because they're fake news. That's an attack upon free press, but over in the UK, in that glorious European paradise that they're cast off as by groups like BuzzFeed. The land of milk and honey, basically, instead of the land of rain and sparse forestry. That over there, when there's a press ban issued, that's perfectly okay. The basic premise of the entire Tommy Robinson case has nothing whatsoever to do with ideology, except for one thing I will point out. If Tommy Robinson, instead of primarily being critical of Islamic lore and Islamic action, if he were going to interviews holding up a Bible and saying this is the problem with the UK, Christianity causes bigotry and all sorts of hate and violence, and look at the history of Christendom, it's violent. Do you think he'd be in a cell right now if he were primarily focused on these things? If he went to a trial and was live streaming and talking about how, and it was like some Christian individual, a pastor or something, do you think that he would have been arrested for 13 months? No, he wouldn't even have a criminal record. Nobody would be trying to punch him out. Nobody would attack him. Nobody would have a problem with him. How very funny it is. He criticizes an organized religion, a for-profit organized religion, and he becomes the enemy. And I can remember when people on the left criticized all religion. They said basically religion is cancer. Or they'd take a leaf out of the book of straight-up communism. Oh, religion is the opiate of the masses, more like the placebo of the masses. But you get what I mean. They used to say that. Now they say, well, any other Christianity will criticize, except certain variants that for some reason we don't. Maybe Unitarianism or something. Other religions, though, it's evil if you criticize them because they're foreign or something. And it's really weird. It's really funny. It doesn't make any sense. So Tommy Robinson is a political prisoner. But he's not a political prisoner in the sense that all of his supporters are far-right extremists. Look, I'm on the other side of the Atlantic. I'm sitting here in the US where I can actually talk about Tommy Robinson. People in the UK right now are at risk if they do a story about it. Literally, people who happen to be in Great Britain at the moment, if you talk about Tommy Robinson in the wrong way, you can get thrown in jail. If you talk about any aspects of the case or advocate for him or donate money to his Release Tommy Robinson fund, I guess you're in contempt of some fucking magistrate somewhere. Thank goodness I'm on this side of the Atlantic where the First Amendment exists and is still defended by people who are well armed. There's a reason why we barbaric Americans are not giving up our firearms, because we see what happens when you start doing that. It causes a lot more problems than it solves. Yeah, okay, it stopped a couple of shootings. It also allows the government to shoot 1 million people without worrying about people effectively defending themselves. Yeah, no thanks. You keep to your Euro laws over in Euroland. That would be the best thing for it, really. And over here in the Americas, we do things differently. I think I much prefer, Thomas Jefferson had a quote about that. I prefer the problems attending too much liberty. You never have too much liberty, really, though. As far as Buzzfeed goes, though, I want to call Tommy Robinson supporters all far right. Well, I support the concept of releasing him. His ideology doesn't really matter to me. He's over in Europe. He wants to affect UK's policy, not change policy here in the US. Here, I can already criticize Islam all I want. Over in the UK, apparently you can't. You can't report on things. You can't do journalism. There's no free press. I guess there's no freedom of religion either. If you can't criticize religion, you don't have freedom of religion. Can you criticize people who are irreligious? Is that against the law over there too? Are they going to institute blasphemy laws? Her Majesty has determined that thou shalt not in any way criticize any god that mankind happens to have concocted for the last few thousand years. But it's okay. It's okay to criticize a few of them. It's just be PC in your choosing, I suppose. No, this is clearly a defamation of everyone who's supporting him. Look at the Change.org petition. Over 500,000 people sign. It's soaring upwards of that, I believe, now. And I'll try to put the link in the description. People are angry, and a lot of these people probably aren't in the UK. Considering the number of people signing it, a lot of them probably American or something. Think of it this way. Do you honestly think that every single person signing that petition is far right? No, most of them are probably libertarian or classically liberal. Sargon gets approached about it, and some people were calling him out for this, but I can kind of understand. He's already in a legal case and having problems. He has to fucking raise money just to be able to fend off this lawsuit regarding copyright infringement. And they're like, oh, talk about Tommy Robinson. He's like, well, I can't. It's literally against the law for me to do so. And some people are like, well, you're a coward. He might get arrested for that. He's already on the government's radar. They don't like him. He gets defamed all the time as being far right, despite the fact that the actual right, says that he's got problems. He's a liberalist and sort of jokes about that, and he sends gay porn to Nazis and stuff. He gets defamed, and I can kind of understand why he doesn't want to potentially end up Tommy Robinson. Yeah, I can kind of understand why UK uploaders would be reluctant to discuss the case too much. Why don't you just, those of us who are outside of the UK can do it anyway. I mean, you can still watch the material, at least for now, till the UK decides, well, the press ban is going to extend to the online world. They're going to pull an Erdogan. Like Erdogan over in Turkey, if he doesn't like something, he tells Twitter to remove it. Like when they had pictures of that dead judge. He's like, you got to remove this or we're going to block Twitter. And Twitter bent over backwards for him, and they do this constantly. Turkey alone issues thousands and thousands of requests every year for Twitter to censor material. Did you know this? A lot of people didn't even see this at the time. During the, student protest, it was Ghazi Park, I think it was. I can't remember. When Erdogan wanted to bulldoze a public park to expand his fucking mansion because he's turning into a little dictator. He's turning into something from the World War I era, which is funny. He's trying to go back to the Ottoman Empire without the land area, basically. And I know that there are people in Turkey that otherwise would maybe support his general movement. It's like, he's gone a little bit far now, hasn't he? It's basically starting to look like Mussolini. Or Stalin, maybe, depending on his fiscal views at any given time. Here's the problem, though. You have foreign states already setting a precedent for leaning on U.S. tech firms to censor certain info. Is the UK's government going to do this? Are you going to tell YouTube that it has to stop letting people in the UK look at people like me because we talk about something you've issued a press ban on? See, that would be a big, big problem. It would show that you're no longer dedicated towards the preservation of Western civilization at all, and you really want it to collapse. Now, there are those who somewhat sardonically will remark that that is actually the case. Yeah, maybe. It certainly seems like the judicial system and parts of the government over there really bend over backwards to defend the worst dregs of society while going after anyone that activates against them. That's what it does begin to look like at some time. Of course, they don't worry about it. They've got cameras everywhere and everyone's biometric data, and they've disarmed everyone. You are slaves if you're in the UK. I hate to say, you're a serf. You don't have any rights. You don't have rights if you're not capable of defending them. If you've been stripped of the ability to defend yourself, you don't have rights. You have privileges that whatever governing force exists grants to you. allows you to have. Pressure from other countries is the only reason they haven't, like, devolved, I guess, back into a monarchy or some literal oligarchic movement or something like that. Why even bother having a representative system? It's bread and circus at that point. They don't actually have to represent you because they don't have to worry whether you get mad or not. They don't have to worry if you're upset. What are you going to fucking do about it? You don't have any guns. They've got, you know, all sorts of soldiers. They can shoot at you with guns. It's what they're paid for. It'd be a little bit of a problem. The only thing keeping them from doing that is that outrage from other countries that are still free might be a little bit of a problem for them. Might cause them to become a Russian vassal, I suppose. Maybe that's what they're worried about. I don't even think the Queen would care. I don't think your parliament would care if you became literally a subjugated nation at this point. You know, already lost your empire. You know, and some people from the UK, they think I'm like talking badly about the British. No, I have no problem with any randomly chosen British citizen. That includes even the goofballs on the left. You're just a citizen. Well, the so-called, you're a subject, a serf, a peasant or whatever. But your government's nuts. Yeah, and Buzzfeed's nuts too. Here's the US media. Meanwhile, I'm looking. The entire alt media, including a lot of the missing link media, the mollusk media as it were, totally on Tommy Robinson's side. Some of these groups are fundamentally centrist or left-leaning publications. We're not talking about, oh, RT is defending Tommy Robinson. Oh, the Russians really love their Nazis, which makes no sense. We're talking about virtually every independent commentator I've seen in the fucking world. Doesn't even seem to matter what their political affiliations are. We're all standing united behind the concept of having a free press. You know, we kind of engage in the activities of the press. It's a little bit of, you know, to somebody like me, not being on the ideological right at all, and not really, as far as Tommy Robinson's personal opinions and views, I don't really care. I have a vested interest in preserving the rights of the press because I'm part of the press. If you are engaging in this kind of social and political analysis, you are the press. The press is not just newspaper and cable news or some news talk, NPR or something on the radio. That's part of the press. It's the corporate, business, for-profit, corporatistic establishment side of the press. This is the independent media, the independent press, what I'm doing right now, what many of you engage in. We're the bigger and more honest part of the press anyway. Yeah, you're not going to see Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed wouldn't care if governing forces came to power and said that they were literally going to start cracking down on the press. Hell, they defended Feinstein was it Pelosi? It was one of I think it was Feinstein. When she came out and said, well, bloggers shouldn't be protected by the First Amendment. They should be regulated, you know, because they don't have journalism degrees. And she doesn't, she's a fucking off her rocker. Buzzfeed never called her out. Despite the fact that Buzzfeed claims to be a journalistic outlet that could be affected by such legal precedents if they were ever set, and if they were constitutional, able to be enforced, I mean. Buzzfeed is just a for-profit entity, and it's going to try to defame its way into outcompeting the alt media. Good fucking luck, by the way. Yeah, when your write-ups are based on rational wiki articles, you don't have a rational bone in your body. That's about all. Peace out.